Top stories in our news. MMD President Felix Mustati has warned that any further delay in effecting the necessary constitutional reforms in 2019 will badly hurt the Zambian economy. And the Secretary to the Cabinet, Roland Mishike, has justified why government still funds the construction of houses for late Republican presidents. And now the news in detail. The opposition MMD President Felix Mustati has warned that any further delay in effecting the necessary constitutional reforms in 2019 will badly hurt the Zambian economy. Mr. Mustati has observed that there are certain elements in the Republican Constitution that are slowing down the country's economy. Speaking at a media briefing held in Lusaka, Mr. Mustati cautioned that these elements must be solved if the Zambian economy is to start turning around. Mr. Mustati states that Zambia cannot therefore afford to miss the opportunity 2019 presents to effect the necessary constitutional, institutional and electoral reforms. He has told journalists that missing out on the opportunity will make it difficult for the country to achieve results in 2020 and 2021. Mr. Mustati, who is also former Minister of Finance, says it is therefore important that the country does not waste any more time in holding the national dialogue over the said reforms. He says that the delay in implementing the necessary reforms to strengthen governance institutions is already costing the country.
And for me, the delayed implementation of the necessary reforms is costing this country. One, it's costing this country in terms of diluting investor perception and hurting jobs. It's costing the macroeconomic framework, such as the exchange rate. So it is in the interest of all us Zambians to make sure that this program succeeds. And I'm sure if we all believe that no one is wiser than all of us, we'll be able to.
The Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, says it does not still recognize the 3 years roadmap the church has proposed for the national dialogue. ZCID spokesperson Jackson Silavwe says that the proposed roadmap by the church is premature. Mr. Silavwe has told QTV News that the roadmap that the ZCID has proposed to present for the national dialogue has not been agreed upon yet. He says his message to the three church mother bodies leading the dialogue process is that they do not rush into setting the roadmap for the dialogue process. Mr. Silavwe has advised the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, EFZ, the Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ, and the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops, ZCCB, that they risk crushing if they do so. He says that the ZCID still maintains its position that all other unresolved issues relating to the national dialogue process ought to be resolved first before any agreement on the roadmap can be reached.
It was a premature dialogue. It was a premature roadmap. The roadmap that we were supposed to present was never agreed upon. So the message to the church is that let us not rush into these processes, because if they rush too much, they may crash. So let's get back to the table and complete those issues as we are communicated in our press statement. It was
The Movement for National Transformation, MNT, says that it considers the impending national dialogue as a taste of serious patriotism and political maturity on the part of those involved. MNT President Daniel Shimunza says that those involved in the dialogue process are being tested on whether they can achieve a national consensus. Mr. Shimunza says that the church mother bodies leading the process in particular are being tested for maturity to rise above board and be inclusive in national dialogue and reconciliation. In a statement to Q News, Mr. Shimunza states that the church mother bodies must therefore ensure without fail that the dialogue process is inclusive of the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID. Mr. Shimunza says his party is of the view that the church mother bodies and ZCID must share responsibility in sharing of the national dialogue process. He notes that the MNT is however against the ruling PF and the opposition UPND reducing the national dialogue process to their inter-party problems of 2016. The MNT leader states that his party also expects all peer rivalry and immature positions by all stakeholders to be set aside in advancing a national agenda above party politics. He says his party believes that reconciliation and peace must be the ultimate goal of every well-meaning stakeholder in the coming dialogue.
It is our considered view as MNT, Movement for National Transformation, that no stakeholder must be left behind by the church. The church, for the first time, has another opportunity to deal with issues of national interest. And it is in their credibility and trustworthiness to include everyone, including ZCID. We feel that the dialogue process can be co-chaired with the ZCID as well as the church. What we don't want is that ZCID is not a monster, it's a mother of political parties, and they already have the stakeholders under the ambit of the organization as forum for political parties. And so we want to admonish the church that they cannot be sectarian. In fact, what is going to happen this Friday is a test of the maturity of our democracy, the maturity of the church, and the maturity of political players. At this stage, everybody must put aside sectarian or partisan interests and begin to put the nation ahead.
And the opposition of People's Congress APC leader Nelson Musoni has called on political parties not to trivialize the national dialogue as it is a serious matter. Mr. Musoni has told Q News that the national dialogue should not be reduced to igniting petty political squabbles and putting unnecessary bottlenecks and conditionalities, leading to the question of who should attend and who should not. He thinks that such conditionalities rather have the effect of diminishing and reducing the stature of the presidency, stressing that intra-party intolerance cannot be allowed to torpedo and overshadow an important national agenda.
We think that it's in fact what is even shocking is that when you read into these petty political squabbles, they are nothing but political posturing and the insecurities which are at play. Now, needless for me to remind my colleagues or our colleagues that we have a unique opportunity to learn something positive from the maturity of Kenyan politics. And indeed, the leadership qualities that are being exhibited by President Uhuru Kenyatta in providing the kind of leadership that speaks to true value addition to politics. It is quite gratifying and amazing how President Uhuru Kenyatta has reached out to his opponents, his political opponents in the opposition, and how together as leaders, as national leaders, are slowly tackling issues of governance, corruption, and working together addressing issues that have fundamentally affected their country for a long time. And this is exactly what we want to see in this country. I think the time has come when we must recognize that politics is not about us, political players. It's about our people, it's about our country, it's about igniting development, real development.
The Secretary to the Cabinet, Roland Mshika, has justified why government still funds the construction of houses for late Republican presidents. Dr. Mshika says it is within the benefits of former President's Act for government to fund the construction of retirement houses for the country's former heads of state. In an interview with QTV News, Dr. Mshika says Republican presidents accrue these benefits when they are still in power. Dr. Mshika says it is, however, up to Zambians to debate whether or not it is reasonable for the government to continue constructing such retirement houses for former presidents who are not alive. He says President Edgar Lungu has in fact already suggested to the country to debate whether such accrued benefits for former presidents are sustainable or not.
When you have accrued benefits, because those benefits accrue to them while they are still in power. That's why it says if the president dies, then the widow. If the widow dies, anybody below 21 can. So it's within the Benefits Act. Whether it is reasonable or not, that is for the Zambian people to debate and legislature, because a law went through Parliament, which was passed. By the way, this law was passed, I think, immediately after President Chiluba left power. So it goes back. When did President Chiluba? Was it 2000? Yeah. So we are 18 years after that. So if we want to change it, that's what the president was saying. You know, the problem is sometimes I think we've asked Zambians. In 2015, one of the things the president said in Parliament was we needed to look at many of these particular issues to see whether in fact they are sustainable. Because can you imagine if you have 20 presidents alive? Where is the capacity to sustain it? So we have to think of modalities on how we are but you cannot change accrued rights unless the individuals themselves who are experiencing those rights actually decide to forgo them. That's why only the president can really speak about this and say we have to do something and do it as quickly as possible. But as I said earlier on, you have to amend laws to make them be aligned.
And Dr. Mshika has disclosed that there is no more space left at the presidential burial site in Lusaka to accommodate any additional mausoleum. He says no other person other than late former President Frederick Chiluba and late Presidents Levi Mwanawasa and Michael Chilufya Sata will therefore be buried at this burial site. The secretary to the cabinet, however, states that another presidential burial site will have to be found, adding that alternatives are to this effect actively being considered. He notes that for the fact that Zambia's history is tied to its heads of states, the current presidential burial site will have a museum built around it.
In fact, I can tell you confidently, I was talking to my colleagues, unless they still, who the chairperson, who is the DSC, who looks at these particular things, we will have to look for other space, because this space is no longer, you can't put any other, because you need now to also build a museum around it so that people can visit the memorabilia and the things they did, because our history in this country is tied to the heads of state. So I can tell you, my colleagues in the committee are actively looking at alternatives, because obviously, as you rightly pointed out, I am told actually, and I think it is true, that initially only President Mwanawasa was supposed to be there. The other two we added. So in reality, the facility was full at the point when we buried President Mwanawasa, who...
The National Biosafety Authority, NBA, has clarified that it has not approved the revised biotechnology and biosafety policy to introduce genetically modified products, GMOs, in Zambia. This is in response to a concern raised by a consortium of 31 civil society organizations under the umbrella of the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biosafety, ZAB, who accused the NBA of formulating a national policy to allow genetically modified organisms into the country. Speaking at a joint briefing, NBA board chairperson Paul Zambezi disclosed that the biotechnology and biosafety policy has not yet been approved. Mr. Zambezi has assured stakeholders that the NBA will engage all stakeholders once government concludes revising the policy. He has also refuted allegations that the NBA being funded by some international organizations to develop regulations for the updated new draft national policy on GMOs in the country.
Let's not start accusing each other that we have chewed money from international community. No. We don't get money from these people. In fact, the people we have been working with, they are within the ambit of the African Union, and we are members of the African Union, who are also concerned about the safety of Africans in terms of this technology. They are the ones who have been trying also to help us how we can move forward in this technology. Not that we have invited outsiders at the expense of insiders. No. If you have an issue, let's just ask for clarification. I, for one, I haven't chewed any money from anybody. It's just a question of, they organize a meeting, they invite us, and come here, or we also go there. Just listen to in Egypt, the whole world was there discussing the same issue. That means the world is also wanting safety of any technology at all. Any technology at all. And nobody is talking about the nuclear technology which is coming, which is very beneficial. So many technologies are coming. The important issue is that let us unite, let us study it, let us understand it. And that's why I'm very passionate about our scientists who are sitting here to be abreast with technologies. If we bar them, we shall go back to 2000. Why did we go to the whole world in 2000 when the MERS came? It's because we didn't know. Now, are we remaining not knowing in 2019? In 2019, are we going to remain back about Dr. Kaimoyo, about Dr. Who is that doctor? But Dr. Chikoti, do you want to remain not knowing in 2019?
Speaking at the same event, NBA Registrar and Chief Executive Officer Lakson Tonga has also insisted that no firm can be allowed to offload GMO products or engage in any research works without the consent of the NBA.
So, let's drive one point clear here. One can only bring in a GMO, can only place on the market, can only research after the National Biosafety Authority has given them that permission. Now, in giving that permission, the National Biosafety Authority has a committee, scientific advisory committee, represented by various disciplines. And by the way, they are here, we only have 2 members, others are committed. It's a very huge group. Even the board that is sitting here is not the complete board. Maybe we gave an indication that maybe this is the whole board. No, there are others. The Minister of Higher Education, they sit on the board. So we want to mention that in considering any application, we have the Scientific Advisory Committee, which does what is called risk assessment. Now, in risk assessment, when you go to the Act also provides what you need to do in risk assessment. So be not shy to read the Act. Be not shy to read the statutory instrument number 42 of 2010, which is on food, feed, and processing. It has a number of things that you can go into. I just wanted to take advantage of this gathering that let's change the language by going to what the law provides.
But the consortium of 31 civil society organizations under the ZAB have maintained that they will not allow the NBA to allow genetically modified organisms, GMOs, into the country.
If you read the functions they put there is nothing safety about protecting Zambians. It is promoting GMOs, promoting biosafety. That's not what this law was put in place for. Is to protect the Zambians today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow. The whole thing has been hijacked, and the government you're watching. Please, your role is to protect Zambians, not laboratory, whatever they are. Please. So when we are saying, I'm speaking as a Zambian and the senior citizen, please eat their money. These guys, Monsanto and the rest of them, but eat it with sense. Don't sell your country.
And therefore, anything that has to do with planting materials, for us we would indicate to you that let it be a no-go area, because we do not want contamination. Of course, we are aware from the interactions we have had with I think more than 5 years ago with Zari, that there is some contamination, but it's something that can be controlled. If you go and pick up the planting materials, you'll find that some of the planting materials indeed are contaminated, but it's something that we would appeal that you who are experts deal with that and do not allow these GMOs in the country.
We will still stand on our concerns, and the next meeting that's going to be called, can the Ministry of Higher Education be here? This letter was addressed to the permanent secretaries. We need to have a neutral party listening to this, because everyone has their views. We have scientists saying this and that, but we need to have a neutral representative. So this thing is for Zambians, not just the NBA or civil society, but who we are protecting really is the Zambians. So from here, since information will start flowing, Chair, I've asked that the regulations that were developed for research and whatever it is be shared.
Meanwhile, Civil Society for Poverty Reduction (CSPR) Executive Director has appealed to the NBA to tell the country how they approved payments for distributors to import GMOs in the country.
So why also not look at investing a lot of energy in research and development towards enhancing productivity of organic produce? Why such an emphasis towards that direction of genetically modified organisms when we can try and enhance our comparative advantage of organic produce as a country, which will benefit us? That is just another aspect that we can look at. We cannot run away, of course, from technological advancements. I think that is something that is there. But also I think we need to differentiate the aspects to do with the policy process and the approval process. For me, clearly, even the approval process, I don't even know how it goes about. I think that's also another area that you need to come out quite clearly and stipulate how are the approval processes and what are the determinants of what is deemed as safe for it to be approved. And once it's deemed as safe, what then? How does it go about it? Those are things we need to look at, and then on the policy side as well, to be able to still ensure that we safeguard our non-GMO status. So,
still in the news, a 3-day conference seeking to interrogate ways on how the Zambia's education system can be transformed into the one that responds to national requirements of human capital in the country will open in Lusaka this Tuesday, the 15th of January 2019. The conference that has jointly been organized by the Ministries of Higher Education and General Education will be held under the theme Improving the Quality of Education in Zambia, and is expected to bring together about 250 local and international participants. Addressing the media ahead of the conference, Minister of General Education David Mabumba observes that the quality of Zambia's education system remains the biggest challenge that the sector is experiencing. He says that this is despite the huge investment in the sector by government, which has resulted in the growth of education sector, which has seen 4 million children being able to access primary and secondary school education. Mr. Mabumba has noted the urgent need to find solutions to this challenge, adding that failure to doing so will continue to be problematic for the country, especially as it endeavors to become a middle-income country by the year 2030. He has disclosed that among other issues that the conference will look at is the management of examinations, education financing, and the education curriculum.
When we look at the general education now, we are able to celebrate almost 9,000 primary schools. We are able to celebrate around 1,000 secondary schools. Now, when you look at those investments, they have come with a challenge. And again, when you look at the enrollment levels, because these are the successes, first of all, to talk about even before we talk about the education we want. When you look at the enrollment in our education system, as I speak, we are talking about 4 million children in the general education subset. So, colleagues, these are significant achievements that the governments over the years have made. But the question is, with these achievements that we have made, they have come with their own challenges, the issues of quality. If you heard when I announced the results for the grade 7 in December, we said everybody has progressed to grade 8, 100% transition. And out of that 100% transition, we had almost 149,000 children who were transitioning into grade 8 who had division 4.
And Minister of Higher Education, Professor Nkanduluo, says that there is need for Zambians to interrogate the present curriculum and decide whether to continue with it or not. Professor Luo has observed that a lot of countries have shifted from the type of curriculum Zambia is currently using. She notes that Zambia's education system needs a total transformation.
In terms of curriculum, the current curriculum, is that what we want? Where students sit in class, at the end of 4 years, they are given a degree, for example, from the University of Zambia. Many countries have departed from that a long, long time ago. Because you cannot be a lawyer if you have not practiced in court. And you cannot be an engineer if you have not gone hands-on and touched the machines that you're going to work with. So again, we shall be interrogating our curriculum that has been given to us over years in our institutions of high learning. In terms of those that fall out, is it everybody in this country that will end up in the university? Have we established different career pathways for our children? Because not everybody is going to end up as an engineer. Not everybody will end up as a doctor. And in fact, countries that decided many, many years ago to invest in skills, because you cannot be a doctor if you do not have the artisans.
The conference will run from Tuesday, the 15th of January to 18th January 2019 at Lusaka's Mulongoshi International Conference Center. Still in education news, Ministry of Education, General Education Permanent Secretary Felix Piri has dismissed allegations that selection for the 2018-2019 teacher recruitment was characterized with tribal elements. Dr. Piri explains that in an effort to promote the decentralization agenda that government embarked on, the Ministry of General Education left the recruiting process of teachers to district education departments. He says that the recruitment was spearheaded by the Teaching Service Commission and was done according to the vacancies available in the districts. Dr. Piri has wondered where the issue of tribalism is coming from, saying prior to the recruitment, prospective teachers were advised to apply in the districts they preferred to work from. Late last year, the Teaching Service Commission announced the recruitment of about 2,009 teachers out of the over 27,000 that had applied. However, concerns have risen from the general public following an observation that some provinces had more teachers recruited than others.
Applicants were asked through an advert which the Teaching Service Commission had run to present their applications to the district where they preferred to work in terms of the schools in those districts. Because as you might be aware, there are schools which were identified which needed teaching staff to be placed in those schools, and places were available in the districts. So that is the process that was undertaken. We have districts, and my understanding is that in a number of the districts we were able to recruit the teachers. As for tribalism, I don't know, but this is the system that we used, and the understanding is that this is how Zambia is geographically, demarcated.
Indian Armed Forces today saluted Zambia Air Force ZAF Deputy Commander Major General Kapoto Chintum, who died after an illness last week on January 11, 2019 in Gurugram city in the Indian state of Haryana. A colorful send-off parade was held at the residence of Zambia's High Commissioner to India, Judith Kabijimpanga. The parade was graced by India Air Force Air Officer in charge of administration, Air Marshal P.P. Bapati, with the valedictory ceremony blessed by Father Roshan Thomas of St. Dominic Catholic Church, Vasant Via, New Delhi. Foreign members of the diplomatic corps and defense advisors joined the bereaved family and Zambian diplomats accredited to India in paying last respects to Major General Chintu. First Secretary, Press and Tourism at the Zambian Mission in New Delhi, India, Bango Navili, has more in the following report.
Indian Armed Forces today saluted Zambia Air Force ZAF Deputy Commander Major General Kapotwe Chintu, who died after an illness last week on January 11, 2019 in Gurugram City in the Indian state of Haryana. A call-off send-off parade was held at the residence of Zambia's High Commissioner to India, Judith Kapijimpanga. Foreign members of the diplomatic corps and defense advisors joined the bereaved families and Zambian diplomats accredited to India in paying last respect to Major General Chintu. The plane carrying the late deputy commander leaves India tomorrow Tuesday and arrives in Zambia the same day afternoon. President Edgar Lungu saw in Major General Chintu on October 4th, 2018 as Deputy Air Force Commander. General Chintu joined the Zambia Air Force on June 22nd, 1980. Mike Munkombwe, Zanis, in New Delhi, India.
In health news, our government has resumed the construction of 74 health posts that stood in Northwestern Province. Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says contractors are ready to start construction works as soon as possible. Dr. Chilufya said this when he commissioned the construction of 5 mini hospitals in Kucheka, Mandalo and Sefu chiefdoms in Chavuma and Zambezi districts. He disclosed that government has partnered with traditional leaders in Northwestern Province who have allocated land for construction of 5 first-level hospitals in Zambezi and Chavuma districts. And traditional leaders in the province are pledged to support and work with the government of the day due to its commitment to improving healthcare services. The chiefs have also asked for government support in other sectors that are lacking development in their chiefdoms. CISCA has asked the President Edgar Lungu to declare war in the fight against corruption so that the fight against it can be accorded the importance it deserves. CISCA chairperson Bishop John Mambo says that this will incorporate adoption of strict measures alongside recommendations they offered to address the vice. Bishop Mambo says that President Edgar Lungu should now walk the talk on corruption and ruthlessly punish those found on the wrong side of the law, regardless of their political or social standing. He says that Zambia cannot win the fight against corruption with mere words.
Lungu must now walk the talk, where let him go deep into the auditors general's report who have been involved. As we are talking now, I'm not an economist, but I rub shoulders with all classes of society. The country is bleeding. I cannot get if I was to get a prescription for life-saving drugs from abroad, even though that's from taxpayers' money, the Minister of Health will not do it. I must write 100 letters, unless I've got an element of what being selective. Grade 7 exams. What is the poor setup? You are withdrawing feeding program in schools. You are attempting, except a public outcry, do away with the meal allowance in our university. We are not sponsoring those that will be leaders tomorrow because they are serious. They go to our institutions of learning, high institutions of learning, universities, colleges, and remain in the country. Our children, when they graduate, they don't come back into this country. If they're in South Africa, they'll be South Africa. If they're in Britain, they'll be British America and America. Now, those that are supposed to take up the position of President Lungu, the position of Honorable Inonga Wida, they are not being given that opportunity.
Government, through the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMAMU, has released 100 metric tons of relief food of relief maize to Siavonga District in Southern Province. Siavonga District Commissioner Lovemo Kanyama has confirmed to QTV News that the relief maize will be distributed among the vulnerable groups in the district. Mr. Kanyama says that the district has received 100 metric tons of relief food to be distributed to hunger-stricken areas in the district. The food is currently in the district in readiness for the distribution. He has reiterated that no one will die of hunger as government under President Edgar Lungu is on top of things. Mr. Kanyama says that he has commended the DMMU through the Office of the Vice President for the quick response to the hunger-affected areas. Zitukule Consortium Executive Director Nicholas Piri has advised the church to be careful with Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue ZTID in facilitating for the national dialogue as several stakeholders perceive it with less credence. Mr. Piri says that Mr. Piri has the church to be aware of those who benefit from rivalries because they would stop at anything to ensure that the national dialogue fails to bear fruit. And Mr. Piri has called on President Edgar Lungu not to be swayed by the Council of Dom's Mayors who are encouraging him from attending the national dialogue with National Democratic Congress consultant Chimba Kambwili, their own PF Member of Parliament and National Democratic Congress consultant. Speaking to Q News, Mr. Piri says that President Lungu should pursue national dialogue without any preconditions. He has ever expressed concern with the growing number of spoilers and doomsayers in the national dialogue process who are putting conditions to the process. Mr. Piri says it is clear that some elements survive and thrive on the existence and continuation of destructive political rivalry in the country. Mr. Piri is hopeful that the head of state will keep his words and provide level-headed leadership, which he demonstrated against the wish and counsel of Doomsmayers when he met with opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema.
People that are advising President Lungu not to attend the dialogue, meeting called by the church if Chishimba Kambwili, who is the NDC consultant but also a PF member, attends. We find this to be a very awkward, advice, because it goes without saying that Chishimba Kambwili is a citizen of this country who has an interest in the dialogue process. These are the same people that had strongly advised President Lungu not to have dialogue with the UPND leader unless the UPND recognizes President Lungu as president of this country. These are the same people that went ahead to castigate the Commonwealth, crying sovereignty, calling for a local-driven process. And today the church is leading the process. The same people again have turned against the church, castigating the church. So they do not mean well in this dialogue process. And we are confident as a consortium that President Lungu is going to prevail over this council from the doomsayers and provide the much needed level-headed leadership that is going to see this nation reconcile and move in prosperity and unity.
That's all we had in our news, but before we go, a recap of stories making headlines once again. MMT President Felix Mutati has warned that any further delay in effecting the necessary constitutional reforms in 2019 will badly hurt the Zambian economy. Secretary to the Cabinet Roland Mshika has justified why government still funds the construction of houses for late Republican presidents. On behalf of the whole entire news crew involved in the production of the news, my name is Nelson Zulu, wishing you a pleasant viewing.